Are you a first-time homebuyer just starting the home buying process, but you don't really know where to begin? You probably have people close to you kind of telling you where to go, giving you a little bit of direction, but it's kind of just confusing you. Well, in today's video, I'm going to go over a 9-step process to take you from knowing nothing all the way to the closing table. So let's get into it. My name is Moynihan, and I'm a local real estate agent and investor here in Keene, New Hampshire. And if you are a first-time home buyer looking to buy in New Hampshire, let's connect. Just shoot me a text or an email. My contact information is right here, and it's also down below in the description. Feel free to reach out anytime. Just send me a text or an email and we can discuss your situation, because trust me, I have been there before. I bought my first house when I was 20 years old, and this is when I wasn't a real estate agent. So I was kind of just going by the wind and seeing where it took me, and I got to the closing table. But after this video, you'll have a better breakdown, a step-by-step process to take you to the closing table. Step number one, this is check your finances and just your situation in general. So you want to actually make sure you're going to be able to afford a house and you have enough money for the down payment and closing costs. And with being a first-time home buyer, you can get a 3.5% down FHA loan, but there's also closing costs you have to account for. So make sure you have enough money for that. And then also just look at your situation in general. Are you ready to commit to a house? Do you have plans of moving in the next 2 to 3 years? Does it actually make sense? And really take that into account before you start this process. And one thing I like to tell all my clients is the last thing we want is to make you house poor, which just means, yes, you can afford the house, but you don't have any like extra spending money to go have fun or go have a night out and do anything like that. So we want to avoid that. We don't want you to be house poor. And then of course, you're also going to need a steady income. You need to show a couple of years of job history and see that you're actually a good employee. Or if you have your own business, you have to show proof of that and actually show that you're making the money you say you are. Step number two is know your credit score. So of course, this is a big factor because you're going to be taking out a loan as a first-time home buyer to get a house. And it's going to be a big loan. So you want to make sure you put yourself in the best situation to get the best interest rate and the best terms for that loan. So know your credit score, and if it does need improving, start taking those steps and get that figured out before you jump into this. Step number three, this one can be kind of moved around on the list, but I like to put it as number three, and that is find yourself a great realtor. And some people will say to get pre-approved first, but as a first-time home buyer, I think you should find a realtor first, because the realtor will put you in contact with great local lenders that they trust and know can actually execute on stuff. So I would find yourself a realtor and then they'll put you in touch with your lender. And then you can kind of do your own research from their recommendation, see which one fits you the best. Step number four, get pre-approved. So this one, you're actually going to be reaching out to one of those lenders that your realtor recommended and you felt would fit you good. And this is where they'll be able to run your numbers, see what you can actually afford, because when you're actually going out and looking at houses in person, you don't want to be wasting your time going to look at houses you can't even afford, getting your hopes up, and just starting off in disappointment isn't a good place. So you want to see what you can afford and go from there. Your lender's also going to take into account your credit score, which I previously mentioned, and what they call DTI. This simply stands for debt to income ratio. This compares your monthly debt commitments, so what your monthly debt payments are, versus your monthly gross income. And most lenders want to see this at 43% or below to qualify. Step number five, as a first-time homebuyer, you'll want to check federal, state, and local programs. And with your new contacts in real estate, your lender and your real estate agent, they'll be able to like point you in the right direction for programs to look at that might save you some money. Step number six, finally, is when you actually get to start going and looking at homes in person. Now that you're already pre-approved, you have a realtor, and you know your budget, you can finally start looking at what fits in your budget and what fits your criteria. Start looking at those in person, and hopefully, sooner than later, you find the one that you actually want to put an offer in on. And that leads us straight into number seven. So step number seven is put in an offer. This is when stuff actually starts getting pretty serious because you're committing to offering a purchase and sales on a house. One thing that most first time home buyers don't know, I certainly didn't when I first started, was once you do get an offer accepted on a house, you have to put down what is called an earnest money deposit. And essentially, what this is a small down payment, usually 1 to 3% of the purchase price. And it just basically is skin in the game for the buyer. And the reason being is because if for some reason you back out for a reason that isn't a contingency in the purchase and sales, then it's basically a waste of time for the sellers. So if you were to back out for literally no reason and just said, no, I decided not to buy a house, well, technically, that's not a good enough reason, and the seller can keep your earnest money deposit. But if you have a good realtor, which was one of the steps, that will have you secured with writing up the purchase and sales contract to have the least risk possible to lose that earnest money deposit. And if you actually do go through with the purchase, that earnest money deposit gets applied at closing towards your closing costs or your down payment. Step number 8 is a home inspection. So this is once you actually get the offer accepted and you have a home inspection contingency, hopefully. This, even if you don't, you should still get a home inspection, even if it's not contingent, just so you know what you're buying and you know if there's any immediate repairs that need to be done if you go through with the purchase. So get yourself a home inspection. In New Hampshire, these range, but it's typically what I see is around $500 to $600. And this is non-refundable. Even if something comes up and you cancel the contract because of that, you're not getting your home inspection money back. But it's a good investment because if you put an offer in at $350,000 and a $500 home inspection saves you something that could have cost you even more money, it's money well spent. Don't look at it as a waste of money because it's not. And after the home inspection, most home inspectors will give you a super detailed report. It's usually like 40 to 60 pages, depending on the size and age of your house and all that stuff. And that also determines the price of the home inspection, your size and the age. But you'll have a super detailed report going over just about everything in the house and kind of, I mean, you're buying a house. It's a used house. So there's going to be lists of small little repairs. And being a third party, the home inspector calls it all out, which is very nice. They'll call out just little things that you might be like, well, that's not a big deal. Like they'll call out a leaky sink, where it's not a deal breaker, but it's just something that you should be aware of because you should get it fixed if you go through it, or you can get it negotiated if you want. It's all up to you. At least you have the detailed report and you can work out from there. And step number 9, the closing table. So this is where you actually go close on your property, sign all the loan documents, and you get your keys to your new place. And of course, this is just 9 steps you have to take behind the scenes from putting in the offer to the closing table. There's a lot of moving parts with lending and underwriting and title, all that stuff. But those are kind of things that you just address when they come up. And like the realtor is going to be there helping you with all that stuff. And it changes with every transaction. So that's why I just put in the 9 steps that you need to pay attention to. Of course, you want to pay attention to your loan and all that, but that's more like it varies case by case, and you have multiple people working on it to get you to the closing table because that's where everyone is happy. Once the deal actually closes, you get a new house, everyone else gets paid, the seller gets their money, and the transaction's completed. So that is the 9-step process that hopefully took you from knowing just about nothing about the home buying process as a first time buyer to the closing table. And I can understand if this all sounds like a lot. Like it might be a daunting task to really take on. But if you find yourself a great realtor, if you're in New Hampshire, I'm here, and a great lender, they should really be the ones doing the heavy lifting. And they're going to just be guiding you through the process the whole time and make this as easy as they can for you because that's their job, is to sell you a house and make it as smooth of a transaction as they can. And if this video has brought you any value, I would greatly appreciate a like on the video. And if you still have any questions about the process that I didn't really answer or address, just drop them in the comments. That would be awesome. And I will just answer them in there. Or if you wanted to shoot me a text, that's cool too. And if you are a first-time homebuyer looking to buy in New Hampshire, just feel free to reach out again. My contact information right here on the screen or down below in the description. And until next time.